These are 1 in 10 million NFL moments. And first, we got the time a fumble was saved with the QB's foot.
Oh, and the ball hit right back to Carr.
Guess that's why they call it football. But that close call is nowhere near as insane as this next one. Because when Aaron Rodgers fired the ball to DK, he thought DK was going to catch it. And he did, just with a few extra steps.
And that ball knocked around and ends up in the hands of Metcalf.
That bobble is definitely a 1 in 10 million moment, but not every rare NFL moment is about highlight reels. Sometimes they're about making a sacrifice so big that no one else will ever do again. But in the early 2000s, that's exactly what Pat Tillman did. See, Pat started out as the kind of player every team dreams of having, an undersized safety with the power of a linebacker, and tough enough to be named an All-Pro. But more importantly, he was loyal to the core, turning down a $9 million offer from the Rams just to stay with the Cardinals. He believed in sticking with the people who believed in him, even if it cost him millions. But that same unshakable sense of loyalty would end up costing him way more. September 11th, 2001.
In the public relations office, they had a television. Pat Tillman is just sitting in front of that television set, just transfixed on everything that's going on. Just sat there.
And one day after witnessing the World Trade Center's fall, Pat spoke to the media.
You don't realize what it gives you. You don't realize how great a life we have over here. Even as athletes, we bitch and moan every now and again about this or that. Times like this, you stop and think about just how, not only how good we have it, but what kind of a system we live under, what freedoms were allowed. My great-grandfather was at Pearl Harbor, and a lot of my family has given up, has gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that. And so I have a great deal of respect for those that have and what the flag stands for.
9/11 shook the U.S. to its core. In the NFL, games were canceled, stadiums went silent, everything just stopped. But while the league was on pause, Pat Tillman was already wrestling with a life-changing decision, continuing to play football for millions or to go to war. And for the time being, he chose to finish out that season out of loyalty to the team. But when it was over, even though the Cardinals offered him $3.6 million to stay, no amount of money could change his mind.
And a retirement story unlike all others, Cardinals safety 25-year-old Pat Tillman putting his young NFL career on hold to join the U.S. Army.
Listen, when you're a part of a family with a military history like Pat's, playing football on TV feels a lot less important than answering the call. So he left the NFL, the money, the fame, and enlisted in the Army alongside his brother Kevin. In 2002, he completed basic training and then served a tour in Iraq. In 2003, he graduated from Ranger School and deployed to Afghanistan in 2004. Then, just 4 months into his second deployment,
700 U.S. soldiers killed in the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. The latest from the world of sports. One of the brightest stars to ever step on, then step off the football field.
Pat Tillman, determined to do something following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, has died.
Pat Tillman's story was over, or so everyone thought. See, the Army first reported Pat died a hero in a firefight with enemy forces, but they were hiding something.
Over whether the Army had tried to turn Tillman into a propaganda tool for the Afghanistan war.
Tillman's family was told he'd charged up a hill, forcing the enemy to withdraw, saving the lives of his fellow Rangers. About a month after his death, the Army announced Tillman was killed accidentally by his own men.
They literally lied to Pat's own family about his death to stir up propaganda for the war effort. Truly heartbreaking stuff. This guy gave up everything for his country, and they still betrayed his loyalty. But not the Cardinals. They retired his number 40, hosted a memorial, built the Pat Tillman Freedom Plaza outside the stadium, preserved his locker behind glass, and even placed him in their Ring of Honor. In the end, Pat Tillman's story will always be tied to football, but his legacy goes beyond the field to a level of sacrifice almost nobody can comprehend. And although he'll always be remembered as the great player, he's remembered nationwide as the standard of loyalty. Of course, not every NFL story is life and death. Sometimes it's just about jaw-dropping insanity, because even the NFL couldn't script something as crazy as what happened in this 2010 Dolphins-Patriots game.
To his 27-yard line. He bobbles it for a second. Still going as he spins forward, trying to get to the outside. Washington gets by the punter down the sideline. Malik Washington to the house.
That was a crazy return. But I know you're probably wondering, what makes it special? Well, on the Dolphins kickoff right after scoring, Patriots returned the favor.
To Gibson, who gets a running start on that catch. Gibson across the 30. Antonio Gibson still going. Can he return the favor down the sideline? You gotta be kidding me! Back to back!
2 back-to-back scoring kickoff returns are already a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But they're about to get even rarer since the NFL changed the kicking rules in 2024. And these new rules have already been messing with players in 2025. See, during the Steelers-Seahawks game, special teams were lining up on the field. And for the Steelers, this included rookie running back Caleb Johnson. The Seahawks kick, Caleb misses the grab, so then rolls into the end zone as the Hawks dive onto it. And this wouldn't have been a problem if the NFL hadn't changed the rules. In the past, it would have been a touchback. But now, when the ball rolls from the landing zone to the end zone, it's live. Some moments are so embarrassing, you probably never want to repeat them. Like what happened to Jake Delhomme in 2005. Because when the Panthers were playing the Falcons, Delhomme took a brutal sack. When he tried to stand up, he immediately knew something was wrong.
Right when I get sacked, I felt this cold draft, and my behind was burning. And then we're in the huddle, and Jeff Mitchell, our center, said, hey, Delhomme, your bleep's hanging out. So I look at the ref, and I said, hey, my bleep's hanging out. He said, do what? I said, my bleep is hanging out.
Yeah, dude hit the ground so hard, he had his dumpy hanging out on live television. But that's not even the worst part, because he literally had to change with a towel on the sideline in front of 70,000 fans. Dude literally bet his entire reputation on a sweat rag. But Brandon Ayuk once bet his entire career on an insect. Yeah, seriously. See, before the 49ers played the Lions in the NFC Championship, the universe gave Brandon Ayuk a sign that he was about to do something insane.
Before the game, a ladybug landed on my shoe. Hey, y'all know what that means?
So, Brandon definitely believed that they were going to win after that. But there's no way he could have predicted that he was going to make the most impossible catch of his career.
Launching deep, going for Brandon Ayuk. It is. Oh, he caught it off the ricochet.
Damn, that ladybug must have been working overtime. That's seriously one of the luckiest catches I've ever seen. But this next moment is equally as unlucky, because this punter hit the most impossible punt ever. At first, everything looks normal, until you see the ball fall straight down like it just hit an invisible ceiling. Well, it kind of did, at least for the cameraman, because the punter hit it so high, it smacked the Dallas Jumbotron.
It actually hit the board. That actually hit the giant video screen, the 60-yard screen.
Let's do a do-over. It'll be 4th down. Please reset the game clock to 10:35. The clock will start on the snap.
I thought the ref's solution was just to kick it again. That's a great idea and all, until you realize the scoreboard didn't move an inch. But while that play went absolutely nowhere, Derrick Henry's most insane play went through the entire length of the field. Because he didn't just make a 1 in 10 million play, he pulled out something that's basically statistically impossible. In 2018 against the Jaguars, Henry took a handoff from his own 1-yard line. Normally this play would just be buying time until the punter comes on, but not for Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry still going.
Who threw grown men around like they were stick figures, which is what makes this even crazier, because the 99-yard rushing touchdown is already basically a myth, but doing it while built like a Ford F-150 is a serious life hack. But back in the early 2000s, one player hacked the entire game, because while most players dream of just having one unrepeatable play, during the Eagles-Texans game in 2002, Eagles safety Brian Dawkins played an entire game that no one has ever come close to, because not only did he get a fumble recovery early on,
With his legs, gets it, loses the ball, Eagles have it.
he also went on to make an interception, and then flew in on a blitz for a sack. But the craziest part of this game was thanks to the trick play king, Andy Reid. Because early in the third quarter, the Eagles were kind of dominating the Texans. So Andy had Dawkins line up on offense to try and have some fun. And they definitely did.
Snap it to Brian Mitchell, but it's a shovel pass and almost goes down. Dawkins almost can't keep his feet enough to catch the ball, but he has the speed to get to the end zone. It's a foot race, and they caught the Texans totally unaware.
With that awkward shovel pass, Brian Dawkins had done something no other player has ever done to this day. Record a sack, interception, fumble recovery, and touchdown pass. By the end, dude wasn't even playing as a safety. He was playing the entire sport of football. But while Dawkins played one of the best games of all time, James Hudson III had what might have been the worst drive of the century. Because during week 2 of the 2025 season, on just the Giants' opening drive, he got 4 penalties. It all started with domestic violence.
Play some of that production.
Scatterboo, draw play.
The left tackle. Whoa! You can't do that.
Then a blatant false start.
And a false start, the left tackle.
Some weird asserting of dominance.
Yeah, so they're going to say he just pushes his head into the turf there at the end.
And another false start.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
Hudson single-handedly dragged his team back a ridiculous 45 yards, and the other team hadn't even touched the ball. So obviously they benched him. Then he freaks out over that too. That dude seriously needs to stay off the Trenergy drinks. But while he was wasting his shot in the spotlight, one backup QB owned his moment. He pulled off a run so rare it'll probably never happen again. And it all started when Carson Wentz tore his ACL in late 2017. Wentz went out of the game for the entire season, so backup QB Nick Foles had no other choice legs, but to fill his shoes. And knowing how Philly fans are, they probably thought their season was over. But when Nick stepped into the spotlight, he flexed insanely hard.
10, Foles keeps, throws, pass caught, 35-yard line. Foles protected, pass is caught by Aguilar. Feet. And now looking to the corner of the end zone to Aguilar, and that's a touchdown, Philadelphia.
The Eagles may have lost to the Cowboys at the end of the season, but after Foles beat the Rams, Giants, and Raiders back-to-back, Eagles fans suddenly had hope. But when the playoffs hit, Foles completely came alive. Dude had the focus, commitment, and sheer will of John Wick on the field. Sure, the Falcons game was basically a string of field goals, but in the championship, he made the Vikings look like the 2016 Browns. And suddenly, the biggest underdog, a literal backup, was facing the greatest of all time. But by this point, people weren't looking at him like some Blue Mountain State amateur struggling to tie his cleats. Aside from New England, the entire country was behind him, and with that kind of confidence, he was able to go head-to-head with Tom Brady.
Brady fires over the middle, caught at the 14-yard line. Off play action. Going for it all into the end zone.
But it ended up being more like Foles versus the Patriots defense, because by the end of the first half, Brady hadn't thrown a single touchdown. And if that didn't make the Patriots nervous, Nick Foles' next move definitely did.
You want Philly? Yeah, let's go. Philly special. Ready?
They're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
Yeah, in the middle of the Super Bowl, they went for a trick play, and it actually worked. In hindsight, it's actually insane they pulled that off. But once the Philly special delivered, Nick Foles just kept on delivering. By the end of the game, not even Brady could dig the Patriots out of their hole. And Nick Foles, the most underhyped QB ever, won the Eagles a Super Bowl and won the MVP. Now that is something you'll never see again. But if you want to feel that Nick Foles rush without leaving your house, check out the sponsor of today's video. Because with MyBookie, you can turn every weekend into your own personal playoff. And you don't even need to wait till Sunday to start winning. MyBookie lets you get in early with college football. And they're already dropping wild covers, last-second swings, and underdogs wrecking favorites. But your wins aren't just limited to college. You can even flex your ball knowledge in the NFL Survivors Pool or Super Contest if you think you can hang. But the real cheat code? If you're new, you can use our code REDZONE and get up to $500 fully covered. And even if your pick falls short, the wallet stays loaded. Because you'll get your money right back when you use your BetBack bonus token. And that's an offer you can't refuse. So head to mybookie.ag, use code REDZONE, and join the place where bettors win together. And speaking of placing bets, you can never predict how badly this next moment goes. Because sometimes the rarest plays aren't exactly highlights, and just going.
Here comes Jared Allen, and he's out of bounds. Poor guy, I don't even know if he realized it.
That kind of mistake makes you flash back right before going to sleep, which, weirdly enough, is exactly what landed Gus Frerotte on this list. Because after the Redskin QB ran the ball in for a touchdown, he did a, let's just say, unique celebration.
Bang! Hits his head right into the cushion.
Rowe went full WWE headbutt, but he must have forgot the wall doesn't tap out. Because with that move, he sprained his neck and concussed himself. But thank God this next one did, because it's still one of the greatest catches ever. Late in 2022 against the Bills, the Vikings found themselves in an impossible spot. Down late in the fourth, facing 4th and 18. Basically, it meant the end of the game if they didn't convert. So in order to fight an impossible position, they went for an impossible play.
He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness! Justin Jefferson!
OBJ would be proud. Not only did he get it with one hand, but he also stripped it from the defender mid-air. And the Vikings ended up winning in their typical down-to-the-wire style. But one of the craziest catches ever didn't come from a player or coach or anyone in the NFL at all. Because when the Bears kicked an extra point, it basically went to space. And one fan was ready to risk it all to bring it home.
Watch this fella jump out of the stands into the tunnel. He appears to be at least 10 feet off the ground, if not more.
The announcers aren't even kidding either. Dude basically dropped 15 to 20 feet straight down. But honestly, the craziest part is that he kept the ball. These days, the NFL will probably ban you for life. But if you think that's rare, one time, the Panthers had to start a game with literally no kicker on their lineup. Because right before a 2021 game against the Bills, Panthers kicker Zane Gonzalez went down during team warmups. And with Zane out, the Panthers started asking the rarest question in NFL history. So, who's gonna be the-air kicker? Well, they didn't have a backup kicker. And since no one could answer, they started having tryouts 30 minutes before the game started. So they were having everyone from wide receivers to their legit QB seeing if they could just at least kick. Well, spoiler, they couldn't. For the actual game, they just gave up on field goals and extra points and only went for 2-point conversions. And even though they lost by 17, somehow the biggest sell was seeing NFL players shank kicks like they were high school freshmen. But while Carolina was struggling to even make a play, slow-mo replay makes it even crazier. Bro was literally playing zero-gravity football for that save. But Aaron Rodgers proved that even with gravity working against you, legendary moments are still possible. Because in 2015, Aaron Rodgers gave us one of the craziest game enders ever. Rodgers had one last impossible chance from his own 39-yard line.
Rodgers in trouble. It's going to get there. He turned 32 yesterday. Does he have a vintage moment in it? In the end zone, it is caught for the win. Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown.
That one play describes the entire Lions franchise perfectly. But that play is also what made Rodgers the Hail Mary King. Still, he's not the only one who could pull off miracles, because one impossible moment happened in the Super Bowl. And no, it's not that the Cardinals somehow made it. Well, it was what happened right before halftime. The Cardinals were about to take the lead with Kurt Warner looking for a touchdown. But this is why you got to be careful what you wish for.
Blitz, here they come. He gets it away and it's picked up. Harrison is going to go all the way.
James Harrison, of all people, intercepts it and runs it back for a 100-yard touchdown into a Hall of Fame highlight clip. But Marcus Mariota's craziest play was a one-of-a-kind touchdown pass. And it wasn't to a receiver or a tight end. It was to Marcus Mariota.
To the line of scrimmage, maybe across the line. It deflects back to him for a touchdown.
That's got to be one of the only times a QB has helped their own completion rating. This dude had the whole defense questioning their life decisions. But that's not even the most unbelievable moment in modern football. Because back in the early 2000s, the Dolphins were playing the Patriots during a snowstorm. And it was so cold that just bending your helmet would make it crack. But when Dolphins lineman Jamie Nails lowered on his block, linebacker Ted Johnson pulled up something I didn't even think was possible.
Second quarter, Jamie Nails blocking downfield, helmet in half.
Jamie's lucky his skull didn't break in half from that hit. Realistically, the helmet was already in shambles from the cold, but Johnson must have felt like the Hulk for the rest of the game. But one time, it wasn't the equipment that was struggling, it was the players. Because when the Bills and Bucks played in 1986, both teams basically forgot what sport they were playing. So when Steve Young fired a pass over the line, they straight up started playing volleyball.
Young, good release, almost picked off. Volleyball time, still in the air.
They couldn't do that again if they tried. I mean, that ball was in the air for so long, ESPN had time for a commercial break. But no one was ready to skip this next play. Because during one Chiefs-Broncos game, receiver John Baldwin and safety Brian Dawkins both caught the same pass.
And what a catch! What a grab!
You'll legit got an assist from Dawkins' spine for that catch. And even though we'll probably never see that again, the most famous, unrepeatable catch ever happened in the 1972 Steelers-Raiders game. With the Raiders up 7-6 and 22 seconds on the clock, Terry Bradshaw threw the John Fuqua, but Jack the Assassin Tatum stepped in to stop them in their tracks. But the story doesn't stop there, because at this point, it's almost more of a myth than a highlight reel. Over this day, Raiders fans always argue that the ball hit the ground first. But if there's one thing all NFL fans can agree on, it's that the Heidi game is a rare moment so awful, it could legit be in history books. See, when the Raiders and Jets faced off in 1968, the rivalry was hot. Both teams were founding members of the American Football League, so the entire country was tuned in for the game. But when it started, fans realized this wasn't going to be some casual Sunday blowout. It was war. There were 6 lead changes, non-stop flags, and fans ready to watch until the last second. So by the time the Jets kicked the field goal to go up 32-29 with 65 seconds left, everyone knew that this ending was going to be wild. Unfortunately, if you're watching at home, you never got to see it.
At 7 p.m., NBC had scheduled a kids' movie named Heidi.
It was determined to air Heidi at 7 o'clock. And if football wasn't over, we would still go to Heidi at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, this actually happened. For the last 2 minutes of one of the most heated games of the season, every TV switched to a kids movie. And what did they miss? Oh, just the Raiders stealing the game with 2 touchdowns in 42 seconds. You probably could have heard every dad throw the remote at the TV. So as you imagine, from this point on, the networks never let a movie stop a game again. Because even the most extreme and possible weather won't stop a game, even if nobody could see the field. See, in 1988, the Bears played the Eagles in the NFC divisional round. And for the first quarter and a half, it was just another competitive playoff game at Soldier Field.
We have been blessed with almost spring-like weather here on the final day of 1988. Temperature expected to climb to the mid-30s, but no breeze today. Just a slight, gentle zephyr out of the southwest, and sunny skies forecast for the remainder of the afternoon.
But as the game progressed, something odd started happening.
As either smoke or fog rolls in over Soldier Field, whatever, it's eerie.
Well, it looked like this thing came up like a blanket, and that was kind of freakish.
You didn't know if it was vapors, you didn't know if it was some atomic gas that the Russians had flown in.
Well, it definitely wasn't bad. It was just a ton of fog, but it was so much fog that within minutes, the entire stadium disappeared inside it. Suddenly, no one could see the game. Not the fans.
You knew the fans were there, you couldn't see them. So it was like they were piping in crowd noise.
Not the coaches.
It was like playing a sandlot game. All you see are the players that are on this field. And you walked outside of the fog wall, and there's your coordinator saying, "What did you call that time?" So you kind of call what you want.
Not the refs.
Probably could have been construed as pass interference. The referees just couldn't see it.
And the play was right in front of me in the middle of the field. I could see the players that were closest to me. It was very, very strange, very eerie. You couldn't see things.
Not even the players.
I'm looking at Singletary, and he had those eyes, those beady eyes like everybody used to talk about, and I laughed. And then step back, nothing. Our mouth was a gate. We're like, what the hell is this?
Bruh, the fact they shot these interviews in a foggy warehouse is killing me. But apparently, that's what it was like. Quarterbacks were throwing it into the void, receivers were running routes on faith, and fans were basically cheering what they were told to. The Bears ended up winning 20-12, but I don't think anyone remembers the score as a standout moment from the Fog Bowl. But as wild as a game vanishing in fog is, it's still not the wildest stadium moment. That would be the balloon disaster of Super Bowl IV. See, right before the game started, a hot air balloon carrying the Vikings mascot was supposed to be tethered to the ground as a fun spectacle. But the mascot must have pissed off the ground team, because that thing flew off like a kite in a hurricane.
It was a little windy that day, and the hot air balloon started going over toward the stand.
I don't know what the actual plan was, but crashing into the stands was definitely not part of it. Yeah, that is definitely worse than whatever people were complaining about with Kendrick's show. But one football performance wasn't hated on at all. In fact, it was universally loved. And what Brett Favre gave us one night against the Raiders is something that will never be repeated. See, Brett Favre had built a reputation as one of the toughest quarterbacks in NFL history. He became the first player to win MVP 3 years straight, became a Super Bowl champion, and never backed down from a hit. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened in December 2003. Because the day before a Monday Night Football game against the Raiders, Favre's father, Irvin, suddenly died of a heart attack.
Coach called and said, "Miss Favre will do whatever you want. He can come home." I said, "Oh no, his dad would really have a fit if he didn't play in the game."
And it didn't take long for me to say, "You got to play in this game." All the times he told me to get my ass up, "Get your ass out there and play. Are you crazy?"
He knows when to be business, and he knows when to play.
Most people would have assumed he would have gone home, but with a dad like that, Brett knew he couldn't let him down. So Brett suited up like it was business as usual and took to the field. And what he was met with shocked him.
When they call out the offense tonight at Oakland, I got a standing ovation from the fans. That doesn't happen.
Raiders fans basically treat booing like a second language. So when they were giving the enemy a standing ovation, you know you were watching something special. And it only got more special from there, because Brett Favre went on to give one of the most emotional and dominant performances the league has ever seen. From the opening drive, he was on fire.
Favre has time. Favre going deep, and the ball is caught on the run in rushing defense. And Favre throws, and that is caught.
Completed his first 9 passes, throwing lasers downfield like he was playing a high school football team. And it only got crazier. By halftime, Favre had already racked up 311 yards and 4 touchdowns. Both sides of the stadium were going nuts. By the time the third quarter started, the game was basically over. By the end of the night, Favre had pulled off one of the greatest games of his entire career. But it wasn't the stats that made it legendary. It was the moment. For one night, Brett Favre carried both his team and the memory of his father, turning heartbreak into the performance of a lifetime. Damn, who's got onions in here?